How's everyone doing? All right, I'm gonna take Nick's way of doing this the kind of preacher way. I was born in Texas, Southern Baptist, so it feels natural. And I also want to do something I got from church when I used to go when I was a kid, and it's something I like. Turn to your neighbor to the left and to your right and introduce yourself real quick. Go ahead and do that, please.
Nice to meet you guys.
This is pretty nice. Yeah. All right, so I see a lot of smiles out there. I see a lot of warm faces. That's why we're here, right? It's all about the community that we're in. Raise your hand if you guys were at the symposium last year. I've seen a lot of friendly faces today. Thank you guys so much for your support. I'm so glad you're here. For everyone who didn't have their hands raised, we're doing it again next March, and we're super stoked about it. So Chris Jagger, he's a produce farmer of over 20 years up in the Applegate Valley in Oregon. He would be here tonight, but he has been an awesome teammate for me. He's the founder, and he's brought me on as his director. I was kind of volunteering before, and now it's a more serious role. I'm super stoked about everything that we've got going on. One thing he always says is, it starts with the soil, it ends with the soil. There's a lot of stuff that happens in between, including the community that we have here today and all the processes that we choose to do on our land. We're all stewards of that land, right? His experience as a produce farmer, it's a little different than most of our backgrounds here. I myself too, I got into agriculture. It's funny, I've been telling this story a lot recently. I took a career aptitude test in middle school and it told me I was going into agriculture. I was like, no way. I grew up in the city, right? There's no way, I can't do that. Get to my second semester senior year of college and I give up my career path that I've been working toward, and now I found my hands in the soil 2 weeks later after I graduated. I grew up in terms of agriculture, I grew up in the cannabis world. I worked on a farm in Humboldt County for 2 years. I lived in a hammock for the first 4 months. It was awesome. And that's my background. Jagger's background, he's been a produce farmer, so he's got a totally different point of view. And that's the cool part about the symposium, is we have a bunch of different people coming together and sharing their different points of view from all of their different experiences. Now you know someone on your left and your right, and I guarantee you they know more about something than you do in any specific expertise. And that's why we have to have these conversations. The direction of the symposium, the first 2 years it's been very cannabis heavy, and it's been awesome. And the community there, I feel like the cannabis community are some of the most vocal people that we have out there for this cause, and that's awesome. I think it's important now that we recognize that in the symposium we've really taken this role of trying to market what we're talking about, right? So some people have touched on the business side of things and how being a small producer, if you don't have a voice, if you don't have an image, if you don't have a brand, it gets harder, right? So now we're all about promoting the people who are doing the right thing. That's why we love reposting some of the stuff you guys share on social media. If you guys don't, please tag us already. We'd love to see your stuff. And then we're based in education, right? So we bring people together and have these conversations, cross-pollination between cannabis growers, between produce farmers, between ranchers, between policymakers, between scientists. It's a huge hodgepodge of all these different people. It's awesome. So you have to have this education component in the symposium. We have this marketing component into the symposium, and now we want to invite you guys to be a part of that. We're recognizing these problems, again, people have touched on it tonight, they span much, much wider than cannabis, right? I mean, we're talking about global impact that we have to have. It's a big world. And it's amazing seeing all of you guys here, because I remember coming to this last year, and it was the first year that we had the Regenerative Cannabis Farm Award, and there was a lot of hype and a lot of excitement and a lot of great people. And there's even more people tonight, which is awesome. That's the way it has to be and the way it's going to be. We're going to snowball, we're going to pick up more traction. But these problems are much bigger than on any one of our own farms. That's why we need you guys to help us. This year we're really inviting more of the agricultural community in, right? A lot of us are horticulturists. That's where we came from. We have farms that are less than an acre, and I know that's a big topic right now too. What can we learn from people who've been farming on 5 acres, 10 acres? In Texas, it's not uncommon to see someone with a 50,000 acre farm. What is there to be learned there? What can you teach them from your experiences? I guarantee you they haven't put their feet and their hands in every inch of soil that they have available to them. How many people here put their hands in every square foot of soil that you have on your property that you're cultivating? That's easily the majority. That's not common for farming nowadays. So how much can we share with those people, bringing them in? How much can you share and learn from those people as well from bringing them in? So that's one thing we're focusing on this year at the Symposium. We're going to have some involving animals. I know, Nick and Liz, they have a huge animal involvement. A lot of the people that were up here speaking, and there's a reason for that. Every natural ecosystem out there has animals recycling nutrients. We're going to talk about farming wheat and corn and things that people get the majority of their calories from. We're going to talk about those in breakout sessions. It's probably not suited for you, but if you're curious about how people do it and what they can take away from regeneratively farming, doing that practice, it's a perfect spot for you too. So we're really focused on broadening the spectrum this year, and we want you guys to help us accomplish that because, like I said, you guys are some of the most vocal people out there for this subject. And if there's one thing we need right now is voices behind this, because we're in a very critical time, in my opinion. I didn't know this. How many of you guys knew this? Apparently there's a thing called environmental depression, or like a lot of people, millennials my age, you get depressed by seeing what's happening in the world. It's an actual clinical diagnosis now. How many people have felt that way? Yeah, I came out of college and I didn't know if it was because I just graduated and I was like, here's the real world, or if it was because of me seeing all these things happen. It's not a fun feeling, but we have the solutions now. That's the cool part about it, and that's what we're about with the Symposium. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so talking about learning from other expertises. This is a regenerative example of grazing. Can you guess which side people are using regenerative grazing? Yeah, it's pretty simple, right? The Savory Institute, if you guys don't know them, they operate across the world. They have an excellent decentralized network of people that they work with in different hubs all across the world, where it's not one centralized group of people telling everyone how to do stuff. Which, bioregionalism is pretty smart. So you see examples like this, you see examples of desertification literally being reversed. We talk about how long it takes soil to be built. Conventionally, we thought it took 300 plus years to build an inch of topsoil. Now we have farmers in the Great Plains using regenerative practices that are building 3 inches of soil in a year. How is that possible? We're learning. There's a reason why this science is being brought into this understanding of the natural world, and science is never going to be able to explain all of it, and I think that's good. But it's interesting what we're learning now, and having the observation in our hands in the soil, we're really accelerating the process. Okay, so cost. We've been talking about cost. We've been talking about price. This is crazy. Look at this. This is how much it costs to grow an acre of these crops. How much does it cost you to grow your crop of cannabis? So this comes from the national averages to grow these crops, right? It's a lot. $650 per acre for corn. The average cost to produce a bushel of corn in the US is $4.11. I don't know where to put this. Which way? Thank you. I think you're doing it. I don't think I'm doing it. So this is just an example of the people that we're trying to bring into the community of the Symposium, and we want you guys to be able to learn from. I haven't talked to Gabe Brown yet, but I love the example of his farm. There's another great farm on Instagram. You guys should check him out, Meadowlark Organics. They do wheat and corn production, which again, that's where we get a lot of our calories from. They produce a bushel of corn for $1.47 compared to $4.11 using the conventional crop method. They turn a profit every single year without government subsidy. There is no other farmer that can do that conventionally. Like I said, in Texas, there are 50,000 acre farms, and without a government check and insurance, they're not getting money. They're gonna be losing money. And when you're talking about building community, how can you build a community with having that burden on your back? How can you build a community with knowing that the land you're passing on to your children is gonna require more inputs than you put into it in the first place? Instead, now we have this opportunity to build the land up and give them something better than when we got it. Talk about multi-generational farming and keeping it within the family and keeping it within the community. I mean, that's as good as it gets. So 25% higher yield than their county average, and they're not completely organic. They are using living soil practices, but again, it's a spectrum, right? When you're talking about, they're doing it on the scale of, I think they've got 2,000 acres of native prairie, 1,000 acres of restored prairie, retired cropland, and 2,000 acres of crop. It's a massive scale, and I've never dealt with I was dealing with a quarter acre of cannabis. This is insane to me, but I love talking to these people because I've learned a whole bunch. 25% higher yield than the county average, 65% lower cost of goods sold, 4% higher organic matter in their soil over the last 20 years. People have seen those changes in less than 5 years with how much we've learned in the last 20 years. So if you're talking about organic matter in your soil, that's where the nutrient cycling happens. That's where all the microbes are living. For every percent organic matter increase in your soil, you have 17,000 increased capacity, 17,000 gallons increased capacity of water holding in that acre. So you're talking about drought. What's common in California? Drought, fire. There's a lot of climate changes that are happening when we have these dry years and longer seasons. Imagine having more water in that system. Speed it up. Click, please. Awesome. Okay, so this. Chris Jagger talked about this at the last symposium. We have consolidation of businesses, right? And this, I've never seen a cannabis farm like this, but I wouldn't be surprised in 5 years, if it even takes so long, that we're going to see something like this. And how are people on the size that I started at going to compete with that? You either have to scale or you have to team. You have to have a community to team up with. You have to understand the business side of how to team up with people on that. So I want to encourage you guys here today, as a part of the symposium, market yourselves on social media. I'm telling you, it's amazing. Farmers all across the country and every single kind of crop and production system are learning this. If you can go direct to your consumer, you're going to have a way better time than trying to use a middleman every single time and trying to be lost in the fold. So market yourself if you want to stay your own individual brand. It can also strengthen your value when you go to team up with other people and create a unified brand. I know Flocon is doing awesome things under that realm. They don't need to be the only ones, and they're not the only ones, right? So you guys have a lot of bright minds here today. Think about a style like that. Or you have to scale. If you're on scale, you can face a lot of challenges, but there's a lot of solutions too. It's up to you to make a choice right now, but we're at a critical time to need to make those choices. So real quick, the symposium will be in March next year. Second or third weekend, third or fourth weekend. We're looking at the fourth weekend in March right now, is more likely. We kind of outgrew Medford, so we're moving up to Portland this year. So if you guys are flying in, it should be a lot cheaper too. We're always open to suggestions. Hit us up on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm on there all the time, so direct message us on Instagram if you guys have any suggestions, ideas. We really want to get into hosting workshops across all these great places and get involved with the stuff that's already happening with all the workshops going on. So thank you so much. Jesse, I can remember meeting you at the Conjay Spin Kickoff. This guy, I was staring at him in awe 2 years ago when he was telling me everyone about regenerative ag. I couldn't believe the things he was saying. I was like, this guy's full of it. He doesn't know. And here I am preaching it today. It's amazing the solutions we found. So thank you so much.
Give it up for Kris. Hope to see you all at the Living Soil this year. It's going to be a lot of fun.